Here is a video read aloud of the article that you're to read to yourself and then answer questions on the next slide. These questions have to do with the article, The Giant Panda. Now, typically I would tell you to read the questions before reading the article. However, and you're going to hear me say this over and over, with this particular book, this learning tool, the questions are not comprehension questions the way I personally would put together comprehension questions or understanding questions to see how much you got out of the article. I recommend reading, or in this case, listening to the article once through first. Then try to answer the questions as best you can, going back and looking at the article and rereading sections and looking carefully. Usually you would have all this on paper, and I would have you mark up with pencil or highlighter places where you found the answer. We will just try to make do with what we have, okay, and how it works out. So, without further ado, I'm going to read The Giant Panda, and then you will answer questions about it, okay? This is nonfiction, and what do you think that this is about? Well, it's about the giant panda, right? Let's read the text and find out what kind of information we're going to learn. The giant panda is a rare and interesting animal. Many people think it is cute and cuddly because of its markings. Like other bears, however, it can be dangerous. Of course, people can be dangerous to pandas too. That is why there are laws to help protect these animals. Now, we got a lot of information in just that first paragraph, but not too many details. That first paragraph is what's called an introductory paragraph. You know, I've been talking to you a lot about introductory sentences or opening sentences that introduce what you're going to write about in your paragraph and introduce a topic. Here we have a topic, and there are several, maybe 4 sentences in this opening paragraph that tell you what you're about to learn through this article, right? And now it's time to unpack all of these ideas. Let's see. Body type. So what do you think is going to be in this section under the heading body type? We're going to learn about the panda's body. A giant panda has black fur on its legs, shoulders, and ears, and around its eyes and mouth. The rest of the body is covered in white fur. The panda's thick fur keeps it warm in the cool mountain forests. An adult panda can weigh up to 250 pounds. Standing on all 4 legs, it is between 2 and 3 feet tall. It's not as tall as I would have thought. 3 feet is only 1 yard. From its nose to tail, it measures 4 to 6 feet long. Oh, okay, sure. So on all 4 feet, it's only 2 to 3 feet tall. But when it's standing up on its hind legs, like all the way, it can be 4 to 6 feet long. 6 feet is how tall I am, so that sounds a little more appropriate. The giant panda has a long wrist bone in each front paw. This bone acts like a thumb. It helps the panda hold its food while it eats. The panda also has a strong jaw and big teeth. The teeth are wide and flat. This helps the animal eat bamboo, its favorite food. Bamboo is a tall plant with a stiff stem. Diet. In diet, the word diet means the type of food that an animal eats. It's diet. In the wild, about 99% of a giant panda's diet is bamboo. The other 1% is grasses, bugs, fish, and small animals. Bamboo is not very nutritious. To stay healthy, a giant panda has to eat 20 to 40 pounds of bamboo a day. A panda spends about half of each day gathering and eating bamboo. Here's a caption next to an image. This giant panda is using its front paws to eat bamboo. Habitat. Let's see if you can figure out what the word habitat means if you don't already know, just from listening to this paragraph. In the wild, giant pandas live in bamboo forests high in the mountains. The mountains are located in a small area of China. Pandas move from mountain to mountain to find the bamboo that grows on the mountaintops. So what's a habitat? Habitat is the type of land and place where an animal lives. So the style of land and plants and wildlife that an animal calls home. Saving pandas. People now use much of the land on which the pandas once lived. People live and work in the valleys between the mountains. This stops the pandas from moving from one mountain to another to find the bamboo that grows there. Many pandas cannot find the food they need. Now the giant panda is an endangered animal. There are only about 1,600 pandas left in the wild. China is trying to save the pandas. One idea is to keep strips of land between the mountains clear of people. Chinese government workers plant bamboo on the strips of land, and pandas can follow the strips to the next mountain. Sounds interesting. I've heard of land bridges. And then here's a map showing where pandas live. It says the shaded area on the map shows where giant pandas live in the wild. It's hard. This image is actually, this whole picture has a shadow of my hand when I was taking the picture. Here's my thumb. But the shaded area is this tiny little area right here. So that must be a mountainous region with plenty of bamboo for the pandas. China is huge, so it's really hard to get a good grasp of what this image is actually showing. This article demonstrates some really valuable textual structures I want to point out. In the opening paragraph, it talks about pandas being seen as cuddly and cute because of their markings. And panda bears have a very unique set of markings, different from all other bears. So that would be a contrast. And then in the next sentence here, it says, like other bears, however, it can be dangerous. So you've got the contrast of its markings. And many bears are considered cute and cuddly, but none as much as the panda. And then you've got the comparing to other bears, the similarity of how they can be just as dangerous as other bears. And then later on in the article, where it talked about the saving of the pandas and how people are living in places where pandas naturally would live, their natural habitat, that reminded me of cause and effect, where you've got the cause of pandas lowering in number is due to their habitat shrinking. And then you've got a solution idea, which is people, the Chinese government, trying to make these land roads or habitat highways for the giant pandas, where they'll have strips of land in the middle of where people would live. And these are going to be huge, I imagine, and there will be great distances between, human habitats or where people live, so that the pandas, it's not going to be like a road, like literally a road, because pandas wouldn't naturally take a short or a narrow path from mountain to mountain. But anyways, so that would be the cause and effect. The rest of the paragraph or article is filled with all kinds of valuable information about pandas. The next article is going to be really fun to read. It's one of my favorites. And it's called Too Cute. We're going to learn all kinds of information about baby animals, which is always exciting, always fun. I'm going to read the questions, and then it's going to be your job to go into the slideshow take a screenshot of these and mark up your answers and then stick that image back into the slideshow. You can put it right on top of this slide, or you could make a new slide to put your picture in there. Okay, question number 1. What is this article mostly about? I actually already gave you the answer to that when I first began reading the article, but here's a hint, and I recommend that you take a look at the hint as you're answering these questions, because they help. They're hints, right? They help you, guide you toward the correct answer. So the hint says, look at the title and the headings. What do they all tell about? They're all centered around one thing, which is what? The title is The Giant Panda, and then you've got body type, diet, habitat, and saving the pandas. What do each one of those have to do with? Do they have to do with China? Do they have to do with giant pandas? Do they have to do with bamboo? Or do they have to do with mountains? Now, every single one of those has to do with the same thing. And although all 4 of these are mentioned in the article, one of them is the best choice. Question number 2. Read the sentences from the article. Bamboo is not very nutritious. To stay healthy, a giant panda has to eat 20 to 40 pounds of bamboo a day. Which word has the closest meaning to nutritious? Now, if you're not familiar with these words, look them up. And there's a hint here. Think about how the article uses the word nutritious and how you use it. Question number 3. Under which heading in the article would you look to learn about what the Chinese government is doing to help giant pandas? Now, I remember reading the words Chinese government. I could look back at the article and just look for those words. I could skim the article and look for Chinese government. And maybe you're not familiar with the word government that much, but a government is a group of people who are in charge of making laws and helping the citizenry of a country live comfortably. They also help the land and the animals within that land do the best that they can and live happily and healthily. That's what the job of a government is. So, and here we have, what would be the key word from this question? The Chinese government is doing to help giant pandas. Well, let's see. Body type, diet, habitat, saving pandas. There's one word in here that's similar or simile to, not a simile, a synonym to the word help. Which one is it? Again, look up words if you need to. Look back at the article if you need to. And here's the hint. Remember that a heading tells what a section of a text is about. Which heading tells about helping pandas? That hint doesn't really do so much, but it just kind of reiterates what the question is about. Number 4. Now this one is kind of trickier. And I should tell you that this professional coach book and all these articles and this information comes from the purpose of it is sort of to prepare you for the PSSAs. And this question structure is straight out of the PSSAs. This isn't a question from the PSSAs, but this is what they're like, okay? They often have 2 parts, and this is good practice for you to prepare for seeing these kinds of questions. So, this question has 2 parts. Answer part 1, and then answer part 2. And I'll tell you, do your best to answer part 1, but then part 2 better be connected to your answer in part 1. And if it's not, if the best choice in part 2 doesn't have anything to do with part 1, then you made a mistake somewhere in here. Okay, these can be a little tricky. But sometimes they can actually be a little helpful too, because the 2 parts are related and one can help you choose the best of the other. All right, let's see. Part 1. How are the sentences under the heading Saving Pandas organized? You know what? You should look back at that section to see what you think. This means, what is the text structure like? And here are the examples of text structure. Sequence, step order, like do this, then do this, then do this, cause and effect, or compare and contrast. I remember actually thinking about how that section was structured and commenting on it in this video. You can rewatch this video as many times as you want as you're preparing to answer these questions as well. Part 2. Which statement best supports the answer in part 1? Choose one answer. The sentences compare giant pandas living in China to giant pandas living in other parts of the world. Did that happen? Go back and check if you need to. B. The sentences explain how people's actions have affected pandas. The sentences list the order of events people follow to label an animal as endangered. I remember endangered being mentioned in the article, but I'm not sure about this. I'll have to look back at the article. And then lastly, the sentences describe the steps the Chinese government is taking to help save pandas. That one sounds plausible. I'm going to, it could be the correct answer. I'm going to need to look back at the article and double check and kind of click back and forth between this question and the article. Read this hint to help. Good luck, everyone.